Hi, Zulma.
Hi.
You've been working your whole life to bring and to teach consciousness to people. Right now, you are in your School of Consciousness in Mallorca, and when you look at the world of all the challenges that humanity has been facing, what would be your main message to all people? If you could address the whole world right now, what would you tell people in terms of bringing consciousness in these very challenging times?
Well, I think the most important thing is that people recognize the power that they have. And the definition of power has got to be very, very clear. It is not brute force. It is not aggression. It is a power that comes from being whole. In spiritual terms, it's the power of the soul self. But in common parlance, it is the voice of humanity in you, in each of us. A humanity that can only be attained once we go over the dialectical obsession that our world is in. Everything it's logical. We have to follow reasoning, linear reason, one misses the in-betweens. So the whole school is about sensitivity. But sensitivity in order to see, to look is what I tell people. Look at what you're doing, look at what you're saying, look at what is happening. But we look with very superficial eyes, and the we that I'm using right now is the collective world. We look at surfaces, we look at appearances. There's no really talk about quality control in so many things. There's no real quality. And we're missing that kind of humanity, that kind of perception. Very often, I'm getting to the answer just a little bit at a time. Very often I'm saying in an argument with another person, there is so much emphasis placed today on respect. You need to respect me, I need to respect your difference. And it stays there, and everybody feels, oh, wonderful, this is very virtuous. We're talking about peace, we're recognizing the other. What are you recognizing? More and more limits, more barriers, more definitions, more categories. When you and I have a discussion, let's say, and you take a pro and I take an against, there is something else which needs to be activated, and that is a contact with my humanity. And a contact with your humanity. I am not responsible for you. I am responsible for my humanity. And in my humanity is heart. I don't like using the word heart or love, but that's what it is. I don't like using it because it's misused most of the time. You touch upon that core inside your humanity, your integrity, your real authenticity, which has nothing to do with what you do or how you appear. When you touch in that and you touch yours, there is a third point, we call it a triangular. There's a third point of meeting, and that meeting is in the heart. And at that point, your disagreement with me, my disagreement with you, doesn't have importance. It's there. It's part of the linear world reality, but it doesn't have importance. Primary importance goes to the oneness, to the humanity, to the listening to one another. And we don't stop to think enough about this. We don't listen to one another. We don't feel one another. So this school is an attempt that I've had, for a long, long time, after being in all kinds of therapies, after doing so many kinds of meditation, and coming to the conclusion that meditation is being human. This school is an attempt to call upon the leaders of the world, whatever form of leadership they're assuming, be it in the school, be it through the books, be it through the contact that the students will have with the outside world, that there is more to you individually. It starts there. There's more to you, and that you is humanity. So for that, I don't want to take up all the whole space here with this dissertation, but this is why we're in the school, we're working so much on unclogging, on unveiling, on revealing what might be fearfully called today traumas, which is what life is about. Everybody's got traumas. And getting to the bottom of why we are so afraid and worried about being seen, about being spontaneous, about being honest, about being vulnerable, about sensitivity. And the school teaches you that in many different ways. We go around the entire personality, the structure, the energetic structure, the different dimensions of being, different kinds of mind. It's a long expose, which is not as long as it really should be, because it's the beginning of a whole life of awareness. But to familiarize the student that I am much more than what I appear to be, and so are you, that life is beautiful, that I have power to change things. I was thinking the other day that what is the difference between meditation today and meditation as it was taught and conceived 20 years ago, or more than that when I started. Before, it used to be a place to find relief, to find maybe clarity, but basically it was relief from the world, a place where I can go to and nourish myself and find silence and beauty and just a breather. Leave me alone. I want to relax and feel and be. Now, meditation has become a way, that third way, of seeing the world and taking action. When I started out, meditation was not so active. I mean, there's a service, a la Mother Mira, but there was no need, let's say, it wasn't so blatant, the need we have today in our world to become involved. We can't just go off into the Himalayas and retreat there, or let's say to the jungles of Oceania, wherever we go. We need to come back down, as the old Zen saying goes, come back down from the mountain and into the city. Come back down from the heights of bliss and ecstasy that we find on our own, and come into the mud, into the cities, into the slums, into the political messes, and make our voice heard. But how are we going to make our voice heard? In the same way that everybody else is doing it, yelling and screaming and buying people? No. We're going to do that by being genuine, being ourselves, being in that humanity. This is much more easier said than done, because it requires facing up to a lot of what our lives have equipped us to do, which is putting a lot of screens and categories and bundles and backpacks and conditions, and of course beliefs and fears. So in our school, the basic thing is to discover that humanity in you, to dare to be, and to dare most of all to love. Because this is what, when you uncover all of this stuff, you will always, always, always come back down to our humanity. And that is a state of rejoicing at being alive. How can we really say that is a common state when we look around today? No. So I think the school exists for that, and the teaching exists for that. It's to come back out into the world and really be a service from that perspective of vulnerability and clarity that we attain once you get rid, in our school we call it the egoism of the ego. We get rid of all of that stuff, the ego or my identity or my real self. My inclinations remains the same, but without that investment on being better, competing, paranoia, and reliance on logical reason. Because when we present a solution to somebody, it has to go through the process of analysis. And this analysis is so incredibly detailed, logical, scientific. It makes you feel and appear very intelligent. But it takes you nowhere. You don't come to that point of unity. We've got to part from that point of unity.
Thank you, Zulma. I think what I hear you saying is that in order for us as a society, as humanity, to move forward in this crazy space that we find ourselves in, is to really come back to that humanity, that heart, that who we are. And yes, I'm a scientist. I can go up here and talk about all of those theories and things, and it's very helpful to go there. But it's also when we are, in this duality with each other, it's like I'm right, you're wrong, and the other way around, we're never going to come in the middle because we're just putting our heels in and stay there. So you're saying that this is really the best and only way to just realize that we're human. Thank you.
The other day I was reading this comment, a very, very important, I think, and very terrifying comment about our world situation today, and how we can see the signs of what is coming. And in a related article, I also read what the signs were before the Nazi regime fully took over. And when you look at one and you look at another, you go, oh my God. But still, the people today, like they were in the 60s, in the 30s in Germany, they still do not believe in the signs. They believe in, actually it's more comfortable to believe that the things are going to work out, or that even diplomacy or that democracy is going to work. The system is not going to work because the system was created, or at least in America, it was created by mystics, by people who were initiated precisely into what we're teaching in the school. But those people are no longer the people who are following the Constitution. It's a beautiful piece of idealistic endeavor for people who are able to follow the ideals as they originally stood. That does not happen. And I'm only taking that because I know that the Constitution, I don't know the other countries, how they work, but everybody's got their own ideals set. But who is running the country, and why, and how, and why? Why has the power become the way that it has, so absolute, so inhuman? And that's why I say, look, just look at what's happening. And if you can't find a scientific conclusion or a solution, go with your feelings, because the solutions are not in the head. It starts in the feeling. Then we will call the scientists, and the scientists will all contribute to what needs to be said or done. A political scientist, the economist, etc. But we don't start from that point. And it's so amazing what the world is pointing out to us now as to what the very possible future is.
On that note, I have a question around this whole idea of artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that and ideas how we can counter that in some way.
Well, the thing is that people are afraid that artificial intelligence is going to take over, and it will, unless people can be more human. There's something a machine can never do, and that's be human. And it can be efficient, but people are not machines to be run by a machine. And that human part is sensitivity, that human part is love. You cannot standardize that. So artificial intelligence for me is scary and at the same time fantastic. I mean, we're feeding into it. I have my own blot, and so do many other people who are well worth hearing and using the artificial intelligence to support our humanity, not to take the place of it. not to displace people, take away people's jobs. Or I'm sure, look, if they're going to take over people's jobs, people still have to be looking over the machine. Maybe we can find new ways of expression and seeing and perception, which have to do with a lot of training in humanity. Then they can supervise the machines. Artificial intelligence is fantastic because it stocks up the information that you need to have. It's an easy tool, but it is not life, and it is not the only thing, and it is taking over in places where I would see the danger signs at this point.
I guess it's taking over when it's already missing this humanity.
Yeah.
So when there's this belief and behavior that is already mechanic, and they keep giving energy to it and reproducing. So what you're saying is pretty much bringing back our humanity, coming from the heart, to be able to go beyond the polarities, beyond these discussions that we see, for example, in social media. I guess we were saying that most of the discussions nowadays, even though is very intellectual, very productive, but they're still based on polarity.
Oh, yeah.
They're still based on, you, like Christina was saying, you are right, am I wrong, and let's keep trying to convince the other. So can you say a little bit more? Because I see that there are many people feeling this struggle. How can I face this? How can I go beyond that? And many times they keep falling into the same trap, keep reproducing and fighting and using this force against each other. Can you say a little bit more on how to use this humanity to go beyond this polarity and actually produce something?
Yeah. We would need to understand a little bit what spirituality is. And you use the word heart again, which I'm very reticent on. I mean, love or heart doesn't just mean bland feeling emotion or pretty things. Heart is tough. Love is tough. Love is truth. And it takes people courage to love, because you have to stand for yourself, for humanity, and sometimes for the other who can't stand up for themselves. So you have to be extremely courageous. You can't want to be loved by everybody and fit in. This is where we're moving to this collective reality, where we're all alone, standing on our 2 feet. Alone doesn't mean apart from, it means all one. And we're thinking for ourselves, and then we can come together. Of course, we may disagree in this point or another, but the purpose, the ideal is there. The purpose is to go beyond this polarity. Matter, our world of matter, the 3 dimension, everything we do, our relationships are based on this polarity at the physical level. What is falling in love? Taking away the connotation of the sexual element, which goes a little bit this way, a little bit that way. Falling in love when you just know, I just love this person, no matter what they do, what they don't do, whatever it is. There's a feeling which is beyond words. That is spiritual. That is spirit recognition. And if we could love in that way, we'd be able to really talk then. You have to use both mind and heart, or let's say spirit. And when you recognize that everything that divides us is based on matter, it's almost like we're acknowledging and reinforcing that the human being is flesh. Flesh guided by a brain that we don't know who runs the brain, but anyway, the brain is supposed to run itself. I mean, it's ridiculous. A person has got to be guided by something beyond this physical apparatus. What is that beyond? We're beginning now to talk about consciousness. Still nobody knows what it is. It's a field of energy. I mean, when are they going to start acknowledging that there is intelligence, that intelligence is so central, and that there are levels of intelligence, and that there's greater intelligence beyond our own little intelligence down here? And even if you don't believe in God, believe in that highest version of spirit, soul, self that we call, that is guiding you down here, but it can't get through. There's so many lines of obstruction. There's so many levels of blockages, filled by beliefs, filled by convenience, filled by the fears of matter, in the world of matter. We're surviving in a world of matter. In the world of spirit, there's no such thing as surviving. It's because we're identifying with ourselves as physical flesh beings. This is our dress. We're wearing this so that we can have something to do with one another. But when I'm meeting you at a level of being, not doing. I'm meeting you at a level beyond matter. And this is what love teaches you. A relationship in love may start out by physical attraction, but after that, when it falls really into a place of depth, you go beyond the outside. You go beyond the material level of polarity and attraction and the play of opposites, to come into the space of oneness, which is the law of polarity pertains to matter. The law of oneness, that fusion beyond the poles, is a world of spirit. It's like the electron doesn't merge with anything else. It's by itself. But the old atomic version of the atom, which is the body, is, the positive and the negative, and they forming cells and then this and that and the other. I mean, even science has gone beyond the actual behavior of man. We have not caught up with science. Look at what it's saying. We use science to explain or manipulate our notions of how we want to run the world. We, big politicians and economists, etc. Science is pointing us to this dimension of spirit beyond the pole. And that's spirituality.
One thing that we learn at the school here, at the School of Consciousness, that I think for me was a vital key part of my understanding was that the energy, the vital energy and the spiritual energy are coming together in our bodies, and that we have to actually take care of our bodies and be in our bodies and not just be in our heads. And, as an intellectually educated person, it was really something for me to acknowledge I have this wonderful body and I can actually do a lot with it because there is all this vital energy. And so in our world today, so many people, especially young people, are constantly on their phones. And I heard you say that, this addiction to all of these screens that we all have is basically taking the vitality and we're just giving it up. And I would love to hear a little bit more about how that fits into this whole other bigger context around, society as it is now, and everybody's just kind of being a zombie, and, how can inner alchemy really help to turn that leaf to help people understand and connect better back to their bodies and to themselves.
Okay, help me out here. I'm going to take things in parts. I'm
Yes.
inevitably going to forget some of the others. Let's start with the body, and what does the body give us? And when we say here, you have to be in your body to be spiritual, you have to be in your body to become enlightened, you have to be in your body to do anything. Why? Now, people think of being in their bodies out there as being in a part of their bodies. Okay, you occupy that part, and that's it. And usually you know what part that is. But there's the feeling of inhabiting this universe from the inside of weight and density and incredible incredible myriad, is like a Christmas tree. Lights inside the body. And each of them has an intelligence. It's like an inner cosmos. It's like, the galaxy out there is inside. And as above, so below. It's the ancient maxim. So being inside true exploration and true development, spirit, soul, self-development begins with the physical body that uses a piece of earth. This is a piece of earth. And it's impregnated with all the DNA of my ancestors and all their experiences and times and locations. And it's all here. This is not just a theory. This is something that we actually hear and I have put into practice. I have tapped into in meditation. And we're trying to convey this to people. This is your earth. This is your entire planet. And your piece of earth has got to be returned to earth because it's going to be used again. Whether you get burned or buried or whatever. Forget about the means here, because in energy terms, it returns. And this physical body is connected to this mother planet. So I'm being fed all the time. We call it the ascending force of energy, the subtle energy body. And it's connected, it's constantly flowing into us and giving us its sustenance. We're breathing in through oxygen in the planet and from the plants and from the flowers and everything else. We're breathing in. And we're receiving from up there. This is all in the alchemical alignment. This is our master practice. So this earth that we're feeding into our own earth is the source of healing, and it also is a source of power. Because when a person starts the path of development, has to unite all the power that is in us, and it's all in the body. It's in the cells, it's in the memory, it's in the way the body is connected to. It's got certain centers of power. I mean, do the chakras do anything? No, they don't do anything. You do it. That person, that individual voice or of conscience, of consciousness that inhabits each of us, that descends, I call it like descending, because it's connected to so many other levels of my own perception. That is using this matter, and it needs to move with this matter. And when I collect all of the places that I've blocked and ignored, I've got a lot more power to what? To ascend. And what does ascend mean? Not going, ciao, forget everybody, I'm going on a holiday. No. It's to ascend and embrace each time wider and wider scope of life, of planetary life. And that's power. That's real power. The power of light. And that's where you do no longer begin to see the polarities. You see them, You see them. They're part of the mechanism down here. But there's something which is much greater that is flowering. There's something much greater than the bee and the pollen to fertilize a flower. There's the power of the flower itself, which is blooming inside in an atemporal moment in time. It's the law. We don't know about law. The world out there doesn't know about law yet. And we won't know as long as we're obsessed on the outside and on fighting with one another, on being better, on not looking and not feeling. Okay, that was one part. You talked about the cell phones and...
Yeah, and so, I mean, how does this all come together around the phone? So the vitality is basically for us to feel joy, to feel life to the fullest, both ends, pain, joy, whatever. And then you just talked about the energetics and how we block ourselves. So these things that we invented for us to make our lives easier are kind of stealing away some of the vital energy. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, you could say stealing. It's a misuse. See, if we don't know who we are, or let me put it this way, because who immediately gets into the identity crisis, which is another BS of our times. What I am, what you are. What you are is intelligence, is consciousness. It goes beyond your description of gender, culture, anything else. And if we address that, we come to the answer and to the solution, which is there's something greater guiding us, and that energy is precious. I've got to take care of it. Like you were just saying, you have to take care of your body. This is what I'm saying all the time. We have to take care of our body because it's our temple. And it's what gives us, as I said before, the energy, the power to reach and use our faculties, which are not there fully blossomed. We have to develop them. We have to develop ourselves and how to learn the machinery. There are no manuals on how to live, on how to run your body, on what real intelligence is. So you've got artificial intelligence, which is at the lowest level of information. You've got very sophisticated robots who can run, spaceships or whatever. But that is all mechanical. It might even use deductive reasoning. It might get to more sophisticated ideas. But it does not have that impulse to love. It does not have that impulse to feel joy or ecstasy. And this is what we're being robbed of. Who is robbing us? We ourselves. Misinformation. And as long as we're relying on a text, I know people who are walking around like this all the time, and they don't listen. They don't see what is surrounding them. And unfortunately, our younger generation is like this. Is technology stealing from them? They just don't know.
Are they looking for
And we have
themselves
to
somewhere
talk.
else? Are
Yeah.
they looking outward?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good way of looking at it. They're looking outwards. They're looking in other symbols for what they're lacking inside to complete them. It's 1 + 1. It's addition. It's linear. It's still material. And I just think those who can begin to awaken, which is why we're working so hard in this center, and we know it's not for everybody, but we hope that everybody here goes out and multiplies this. It is in a terrible state of self-ignorance, which is bringing our world down exponentially. Something absolutely horrible. So, I don't know, some of our younger people here talk.
No, I was going to talk about or ask you about in this topic of modernity and technology, and it seems like we have more and more sensory information, sensory input all the time. And when you talk about us having to be more sensitive and more sensible, why is it that we keep stuffing our sensory apparatus with so much information, and how can we be more sensitive in a world with so much information and so much stimuli?
Again, it's the spaces in between. I am amazed daily, I should say, at the stupidity of the human being who doesn't look at the evidence. Now, we have Matrix, right? And this is a great big, everybody loved the motion picture. There's many more Matrixes being done. I even have a book coming out eventually. It's called Matrix. But nobody looks at the spaces in between. What is beyond the Matrix? How does the Matrix emerge? What is it corresponding to? And let's look at nature, our own nature. And let's look at the system of the way vegetables grow and the whole Fibonacci sequence and all of this perfection that exists. Did it just spring out of nothing? Some people, this is where I'm amazed that they're intelligent. They don't think, okay, where does this come from? It's just much easier to take it as a book of, information, scientific information, titles and categories. There's always something beyond, and it's those spaces that are filled with something that is not linear. It's not deductive. It is a leap into the unknown. It's a leap into the silence beyond the silence. It's a leap beyond what the mind is constantly monopolizing us with. So all of this artificial intelligence, all of this sensory input is for the body, and it's for our 3D functioning. But we are not the body, and we are not 3D. You don't have to believe in God to know that there is something beyond. I mean, I think we've gone beyond these discussions about atheism. It doesn't even mean anything in our world today. There is something greater, and that something greater is, let's call it the force of existence, essence, that fills all the spaces in. So this is, I think it just reduces itself again to information, which is I want to talk as much as I'm able to. And all my friends, let's talk. Let's reach out. Let's get together and discuss these things much, much more. And I urge everybody who's listening to us to really go deeper and deeper and deeper into the issues. But don't leave it at talking. Come back and point to the one who is doing the thinking in the talking.
Listening to you, I think that you start saying that is one of the keys is going back to your humanity. But listening to you is going back to humanity. It goes way beyond of our idea of humanity. I mean, it sounds to me that we take for granted all the faculties that we have, all the possibilities that we have as human beings. You've been describing so many things that goes way beyond our survival mode or our way of dealing with our regular life that is human. This is humanity. And we have the idea that humanity is just those superficial interactions that got us distracted. So it's interesting that basically going back to your whole humanity, but it's not easy. It implies you actually experience it, not just, like you were saying, exploring, studying what is in between lines, what are the faculties that you have access. So this is really interesting and striking, that the simple fact that, well, you go back to your humanity. Wow, this is humanity.
It's beyond, and it's so close, so near. Again, I mean, who can possibly stay unmoved at the suffering of a child? And yet so many people are so totally insensitive to that. The child means a figure, it means cost of living, it means it has to be fed. And if its skin is different from ours, then, and I'm speaking in both directions, if their religion is different from yours, they're not as good. And I mean, it is absurd. This is why I say think, talk, look, and be sensitive. Look around you and go into this beyond state, as you just pointed out, beyond state which is so internally real for each of us, because it's what nearness and intimacy is about. But people are so terrified of nearness and intimacy, and we need to start there. We need to start there. Beyond the shame, we have to bring things into the light. We have to bring in, I mean, the issue of race is so incredibly, I am still amazed at how at the 21st century we're still being so prejudiced against race or gender. I mean, what does it matter? It doesn't have any importance whatsoever. What counts is the life inside, the feeling, the joy, the emission. Each person is like a little star, and most stars are dying. You just go around and they're dead. They're almost like puffing out in a body that is dead. Sensitivity that is not there. There's some little light somewhere, some shadow somewhere for the self. So yeah, I think we're going around in circles. It's always the same thing.
Yeah, and my sense is that everybody's looking. People are out there looking, but they don't know where to look. And the fewest people, it seems, are actually looking inside, and not just to get away up there in the meditation, but to actually find who's there. And I mean, in my own experience, presence, being present, equals in a big way vulnerability.
Yeah, it's like looking, for many people, means judging, analyzing and judging. And it's looking means integrating into your surrounding. How is this affecting me? And not just me as an individual, how is it affecting life around me? It's communing at that level. It's looking for what is obvious, looking with the eyes, but looking with your senses. It's looking with your feeling. Feelings are so messy. They're so encapsulated about the self, and this whole, you get all bottled up in your own personal trauma, your own personal pain. Who in the world has not suffered? Nobody. People may have forgotten that they've shut off so much that they no longer feel. But every moment, every living thing will remind you of its vulnerability. And vulnerability spells light, spells love.
And I think just one more point on this is that I have experienced myself and in others that it's really easy when you're in this vulnerability to just point the finger.
Of course, it's out there always.
Instead of taking responsibility.
And Zuma, what would the world look like with humane human beings for you?
With humane human beings?
With human beings who recognize their humanity.
I think we would, we hear about these golden ages of the mythical past, because somebody don't even believe that it ever existed. Those of us who have more etheric sight know that there was several golden ages in the past, where people would recognize one another, would work with different talents, each one in their own way, in their own individual way of perceiving, working together, collaborating, building, reaching new horizons, new creations, and even technology that would enhance the whole. It would mean living in joy. We can never get rid of pain. We're going to have some pain, but it is a pain that would be shared. Some of the primitive societies have kept some of these old beauties, let's say, old ways. But we would have to say blatantly we would have a happier world may not be altogether true. We would have a more creative, expressive, dynamic, instead of happy, joyful world. I think every one of us can conceive that, where things would be looked at naturally, and things of the body would be recognized as the body. Society would be recognized as one large body, and beyond that would be recognized the different dimensions of being in which each of us participates. And we would meet there, and we would meet here. We would meet at different levels. And not everybody's going to be always at the same level, but it takes the more illumined human being to recognize that humbly and lovingly, and teach those who are not quite there a little bit more that there is a greater, wider world out there, one of spirit. Because there is no division. The division is within us.
Because many, many things in the world are happening now, even natural disasters or politicians or whatever. So that means that humanity is ready?
Oh, my love. If I answer directly, I would say no, but it is my responsibility getting it ready. So the answer is there. I don't care whether it's ready or not, I'm going. I'm going forward with whoever is ready to jump on the bus together.
And what I heard you say just now is that, in the end, it all comes back to this definition of love that you gave earlier around, we accept the other person the way they are, and we love them the way they are. And whether they're at the level we want them to be or not, we have to just open to that. And that's love. It's not about you do what I want you to do, and then,
Exactly. And it's not that I love you because you think like I do. You may think totally differently, but I love you. And that enriches me. It gives me more perspectives. It gives me different facets of the diamond. And that's respect. What is respect? An attitude. When it comes from the heart, it is an acknowledgement and an embrace. So whether you think totally different from me, I am still embracing you and you are still embracing me. And that's what will bring out the fruits upon the world, upon the earth, not our differences, which are interesting.
From a biological, ecological perspective, I've always marveled at this idea of how diversity is energetically higher frequency than non-diversity, and I'm not trying to judge that. I just think, the more diverse we are, the richer we are. And the more we can, tap into whatever we need to tap into at the moment that we might need.
So I think that's a good definition of how the world would be a better world. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
If we could just live it.
Oh, we're getting there, and we're not. Those of us who are sitting here, we're not stopping here. And I will not shut my mouth ever until the day I die.
And it's interesting in this idea of readiness. I feel like in a way, even though a lot of us get afraid of all these technological advances, if you look at it from a neutral perspective, it could be taking us to this better world, because we could replace the jobs that are so mechanical that a human being shouldn't be doing at the first place anyways. So it's just, are we ready to allow this to happen in a way that everybody else then can have space to do what their soul is calling them to do, to be creative, to love, to share, to enjoy. And I think it's totally possible, and I feel like we are going there, even though there is a lot of resistance, and that's why...
Spoken with the idealism of youth.
Yes.
It's beautiful. And I'm not saying it isn't real, but we have to act also. We cannot just say it's moving in that direction and how beautiful. It's I have to do my part. And we're building, we're still building, and that whole depends on our building here now. And we cannot just be complacent about it.
Something that you said at the beginning, that meditation is becoming or should become active, a way of bringing, taking back, embodying our power and acting. So could you say a little bit more? I mean, what you just said is not just imagining, envisioning a possible new world, but actually we need to act right now, but coming from this different place.
Yeah. Meditation isn't a doing. Well, let's put it this way. It's a doing in order to reach becoming or being. So whatever, it isn't just sitting silently doing nothing and the grass grows by itself. That is ultimately at one higher dimension true. But here, there's all the little answered work. And meditation means reaching that silence beyond the chatter of the mind, where everything, your whole organism, you are living inside this planet with billions and billions and billions of little cells, intelligences, remembrance, DNA of all of humanity inside you. Okay, here you are. You're lighting up, and everything else lights up with you. And that lighting up is speaking of the history of the past and of the possible future, but it's also speaking of the present. And in this time, where there is a time, not in that time up there where there isn't, in this time we need to move. And instead of trying to figure it out and getting so overwhelmed and I love it. I love it. I go into this kind of thinking, but then I have to bring myself back here and do my little thing each day, put my little stone in its place, me my way, you your way, and incentivizing everybody to do that. Or we're not going to get out of this. We're going to go back into, because if you look back in history, not everything has been beautiful. There's been, why are we the way we are now if we'd had such glorious past? Because people forget. People go into their sensory, physical, material, linear, polemic, polar worlds and interests.
Something that I see many times is this contrast between people who are at the space of envisioning and meditating, of projecting a new word or an idea, and the activism, the people who are totally immersed in doing for good, social change. I guess what you are saying, how can we combine those two things so we have more power to actually change things? Because what I see many times is that all the people who are trying to change, they are getting exhausted. They're falling apart. They are struggling and even killing themselves. Mm-hmm. And how, I guess that this is kind of the key. How can we bring this space and renew our vitality coming from this power and then change and then keep moving forward?
Well, this power, we have to recognize that there's several synonyms that go with it. Power is love. Power is seeing and knowing, all at the same time. The power that I'm talking about is that power that you reach when you let go of the idea of who you are. You enter into that silence. You reach this, what for everybody is light. I'm not using it banal, the banal term light, which is this illumination. And there you know without knowing. So the more of us who know what that knowing is about have got to, our job really, the little stones along the way, is to be this and to somehow shine. And it's contagious. And bring other people in their own language, at their own level, to this kind of perception, this unitary perception, where power is love, light, and truth, and beauty. And it exists on so many different levels and variations and styles. And each of us, right now we have, 19 countries represented in the school. Each one of those 19 countries is going to reach out to all the hundreds of ethnicities and cultures in the world, and bringing in a little bit of light, each in a different reflection. Those who can see must share that insight. Those of us who know must teach in some way. Doesn't mean you have to get on a pulpit. Be that example. Inspire others. The world is lacking inspiration of this sort. And that's how we can make a change.
Yeah, and so what I hear everyone saying is that it's not always power to just push people in a certain direction or push them down, but there is power in making the space and letting others in this diversity that I was talking about earlier come and bring their piece. And then, we're making something bigger together, all of us. And if we can do that, then, I see your point too. I mean, it's wonderful. If I don't have to sit there the whole day and type something that the computer can do in like a millisecond, then I have time to do something else. It gives me space. So it's kind of a beautiful vision to know that this is possible. We just are.
Thank you so much.
I feel
You brought it all to a nice,
I feel like this is where
nice
it's at.
conclusion.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Did you have a question?
Yes.
Okay, let's go.
For those who might be listening and feeling that what we're talking about is so far away from their reality right now, how can they start? What can they do or feel, or how can they start to feel a little bit of what we're talking about?
I think if we can ignite the desire in them for a world as we've just been sharing, that desire will guide them and will attract another desire, and it will happen. That's enough. Don't go to your head then to think what you can do or how you can do it. Just know that you wish it, and that desire will attract people. You'll be surprised. Somebody, let's say I'm thinking of somebody in the middle of India somewhere, or Africa, or whatever it is, and they hear us talking and they say, yeah, but here it's different. How can I participate in this change? Just keep wishing it and look around and start waiting, because something will unfold from within you, which is always a direct way. It comes from above there, but you don't know that contact yet, so you're kind of doubting it. Don't. For a few moments, just know that your heart's desire is heard. And it's heard by you, if you want to call it Daddy God up there, is going to filter down to you and attract that which you require, because this is the way the world really works, for good or for bad. We attract the conditions that we need. And once you've begun to attract somebody that thinks like you, that wishes for you, then comes the enterprises, then comes the bigger contacts. Those people get together. I mean, we were working alone for 30-something years and surviving. Then look at the school. Look how it reproduced after, good Lord, 40 years of working on my own. And now I have a chance to address you, and all of us have a chance of addressing so many more people. So just even a little bit at the beginning is enough to ignite the fire of the heart.
Zulma, would you like to talk about this subconscious programming that influences us and conditions us, not allowing to this inner power to unfold?
Very good question. We have to, in this looking at ourselves, we have to face our, let's say, perhaps number one, beliefs. What do we believe in, and how do we believe in it? Who told us that, and why are we still believing that? You can go into the excess of it, into empirical scientific testing and not believe in anything. But this, together with the emotions, the sensitivity, will begin to uncover the traumas that you've blocked against. It begins by the individual and facing up to the life we have led. I was talking about this just yesterday in the book, my book, Emergence of Consciousness, Death of the Ego. There I've traced all the steps that are needed to face before you can die to the egoism of the ego and be reborn as more authentic and powerful self. But we have to overcome and release the blockages. Physically, it's amazing how we don't. I mean, I did ballet, I did dancing for so many years. There are places in my body I never reached, that only now, because we have this fantastic teacher, we're beginning to discover. I mean, there's a little bone here that I never even knew existed. And it has to do with my whole balance and everything else. So discover the body, the emotions that are there, the emotions behind the emotions, behind the emotions, and then the fear, and then the anger, and then behind that, and underneath that. And the way the mind works, the quick formulas, the intuition. So all of these are ingredients that will reveal themselves to us either systematically, as it happens in the school, or people read my books, or just intuitively by living life and with that desire to see beyond what is happening. And it is true, there are many brave people out there who've awoken on their own. It's extremely difficult, but it does happen. And there are pockets or places where more illumined people will meet others and be, carried along. This is the way our society moves. If we start thinking of all that we have to do, then we go, oh my God, I can't do this. But just a little step at a time.